Hello and welcome back to Stop and Go F1 for this, our weekly news video. And what a week it has been. I thought at one point this week, there's no news. And then all the news happened at the same time. So here's just a few things we're going to get into today. We're going to have a look at the newest IndyCar team, which will be coming to the grid next year. We'll be talking about Andretti and how, despite the fact that they haven't been given entry into F1, they're still just ploughing along with their entry into F1. Alpine and how awful they are. Some rumours around a silly season. And, of course, we'll be talking all about Fernando Alonso's new Aston Martin contract and what it could possibly mean for him. And then finally we're going to look at the calendar for next year as well, because that came out, I think it was yesterday. So we'll have a look at all of that and more here in this news video. So make sure you like and subscribe before we get in, because that is the rules. Also, there was a video that came out on the channel yesterday about the longest streaks in Formula 1 history. So make sure you check that one out as well. It's both good and bad Formula 1 streaks, so that is on the channel once you finish this video, of course. And finally as well, I know I've started a few news videos saying today I'm going to get my hair cut, but today, I promise you this, I will get my hair cut. So for Japan, all this hair will be gone. So, no, but not Japan, China. We've already had Japan. Let's talk about some news. Firstly, going to the world of IndyCar, which we don't talk about very often, but I do watch IndyCar and very much enjoy it. I don't talk about it too much because I don't understand what's going on. But let's talk about IndyCar though, because Prema will be joining the IndyCar series in 2025. They'll field 2 full-time entries and have signed on with Team Chevy to bring their engines as well. So they got Chevrolet power, and they're going to open up a state-of-the-art facility located in Indiana. So huge news for Prema here. It was rumoured that they were one of the teams trying to get into F1 as well. Of course, they have their F2 team and their F3 team and their Italian Formula 4 team and their Formula 1 Academy team, and I think they've got a WEC team. They're basically everywhere in motorsport at this point. So now they're going across to America and going to IndyCar, which I'm really looking forward to, because I think Prema are a great team who have produced some fantastic drivers as well. So that should be really interesting to see how they got on there. Of course, the speculation now starts of which drivers are going to drive for them in IndyCar, and I have my speculation too. If it was up to me, I was just looking through the pantheon of Prema drivers that they've had before. Of course, I'm not going to take any of the ones out of Formula 1, but ones who are reasonably free, who've raced for Prema before. The first one that came to mind instantly was Frederick Vesti, because he was fantastic last year, and he has like a few little mistakes here and there cost him the Formula 2 title. I'm not even sure what he's doing at the minute, but I think he'd be a great addition to the IndyCar series. I think he's fantastic. And the second one was Mick Schumacher. Now, I know he's currently doing the WEC stuff with Alpine, but if there was a way to figure it out that he could do IndyCar and WEC at the same time, maybe miss a few IndyCar races when WEC events are on. But I think a Frederick Vesti Mick Schumacher team could be really cool in IndyCar. So that's the two I would go for there. But we'll have to wait and see, of course. Because I feel like the 2 drivers that Prema have currently got in F2, in Ollie Behrman and Kimi Antonelli, I feel like they are more F1 bound than anything else. So you're probably not going to see them in IndyCar. So you might have to go a little bit further back. Definitely Frederick Vesti. Let's have a look right now. I'm going to do a quick Google here, live on the old news video. Let's have a look what Fred Vesti is doing. His real name is Frederick Vesti Stam. There you go. So, I'm on his Wikipedia. So he did well last year. In January 2024, it was announced that Vesti would make his sports car racing debut in the European Le Mans season for the 2024 season, racing in the LMP2 class alongside Alejandro Garcia and Freindhand Hansberg. Well, there you go. He's doing LMP2. He could leave that for IndyCar. Go on, Frederick Vesti. You'll have a great time in the IndyCar. And speaking of IndyCar, let's talk about an IndyCar team called Andretti and their new thing, a whole Andretti Global, which they launched in order to get into Formula 1, which so far is still being rejected. But despite this, they're just carrying on. I think it's the most American thing in the history of motorsport to be told, no, you're not allowed to compete in this motorsport, and just carry on preparing to compete anyway. Like, that's a whole level of confidence that I think only the Americans have. So Andretti Global are not only planning to go into Formula 1, they are also planning to enter Formula 2 and Formula 3 in order to create a talent ladder to help feed its F1 teams with US-based drivers. Now, this is something we spoke about in a video I had ages ago on predicting the F1 grid for next year. It's aged terribly, but in that we talk about Andretti and how they want a US driver. They want an American driver. And if you look at it, there isn't really many in terms of F2 and F3. I mean, let's pull it up right now if we can. So let's have a look at F2 grid. We got Jack Crawford, who's very good. Juan Mel Correa, who is probably at the end of his Formula 2 career and probably won't get that call up into F1. So Jack Crawford is the only one at the minute who I would say possibly could get into Formula 1, and he's part of the Aston Young Driver Program. Then let's have a look at Formula 3. Is there any F3 2024? Let's have a look if there's any American people there. Max Esterson. That's it. I don't really know much about Max Esterson. Let's have a look at the results of Max Esterson. 6th, 24th, 26th, 14th in the first 4 races. So it's not going great, but it can always turn around. So yeah, looking at F2 and F3, there's 2 American drivers, one of which is signed to the Aston Young Driver Program, and the other one who isn't having the best results as of yet. So if Andretti could come into Formula 1 and Formula 2 and maybe take some drivers away from that Indy NXT maybe and push them through here, then that could serve us pretty well in terms of American-ness. And, with an idea like this, I have no idea why F1 are rejecting them. F1, who are so desperate to appeal to that US market, which they're doing very well. But a team has come along, an established, well-known American team has come along and said, we want to be on your grid. And not only do we want to be on your grid, but we're also going to make a team in F2 and F3 to get more American drivers into Formula 1. That should be what they want. And then, correct me if I'm wrong here, but they would be the only Formula 1 team with an F2 and F3 team. I know there's teams who are affiliated with, like Ferrari are affiliated with Prema and so on. There's team affiliation there, but there's no Red Bull in F2. There's no Haas in Formula 3. So this would be like a one-of-a-kind type thing, and it would be great. But as of right now, still rejected, but Andretti are looking to change that round as they have launched their new base in Silverstone. The base is expected to strengthen its bid to enter the Formula 1 Championship in the near future. Now, there isn't too much details on this. I couldn't even find where in Silverstone it is. But yeah, there was this whole big picture of them outside their new base where they're going to be making their Formula 1 car. So, we learned all about their bid a while ago, just before it was rejected, and they said we're going to have this base here, and this base here, and this base here, and they're still going ahead with it. So this new Silverstone base, there's a lot of teams based in Silverstone or the Silverstone area. So yeah, Andretti looking to join the squad, and I mean, no is not no in terms of Andretti. They've been told no, and they just keep on going. So there you go. Let's talk about a team who maybe won't be keeping on going very soon, and that's Alpine. This kind of connects in with the whole Andretti story, really, because this is a rumour going around at the minute that Alpine's disappointing start to the new F1 season has already fueled talks that its parent company Renault could consider offers of selling its team. Oh, excuse me, everyone. I've just woken up. But yeah, Renault could consider offers of selling the team on one condition, that its new owners would continue to use its engines. So this is an interesting one here, because Alpine are dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. I was speaking with a friend of mine about this the other day, and if you go back to, was it 2022? I think it was, so only 2 years ago, Alpine were the fourth best team on the Formula One grid. The only teams better than Alpine were Red Bull, Mercedes, and Ferrari. Then it was Alpine. They beat McLaren in the championship that year. In a space of 2 years, they have gone from best of the rest to worst of everybody. And that is a shocking turnaround when you look at it. I mean, if you look at the entire history of that team, going back to like its Renault days when it took over from Benetton. I mean, Benetton had won 2 world titles but had kind of fallen off a little bit. Renault picked them up in 2002, was it? It's off the top of my head. And within a few years, they turned that team back into a championship-winning team again. Then they fell off again, but they were always there or thereabouts. I mean, you know, when it was Lotus Renault and they had Kimi Raikkonen, they were winning races and looking quite good, and then they fell off again. But they've always been like in the middle, you know? They've always been there, podiums and all that kind of stuff. They got 2 podiums last year. To see them where they are now is shocking, and just it goes to show that if you fire the head of a company every 6 months, it doesn't go well. And I think that's what we should learn from here. If the team principal of a team gets fired like every few months and no one gets to build anything, it's bad. And at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if Alpine did sell, because what's the point in having them around? Because they don't learn ever. They just continue to make the same mistakes over and over and over again, and it's embarrassing. So, yeah, get rid of them. Who cares? And then the whole question will be who to sell to, and of course Andretti's name will be in that mix. Now, the interesting thing about Andretti is that condition they spoke about of the new owners must continue to use the Renault engines. Now, the rumour was that Renault had already offered to supply Andretti engines for their first few years of Formula One until I can't remember. Oh my, General Motors. Until General Motors were able to supply their engines properly, so Andretti would use Renault. I think what this condition says, though, is it would use the Renault engines forever, maybe, not just for a short amount of time. And that's not something I don't think Andretti are interested in. I don't think they're going to kind of push General Motors to the side and be like, no thank you, we've got Renault now, just because they can now get into Formula One. So, yeah, I don't see Andretti taking up that offer. It's Andretti Cadillac, isn't it? So I don't know if the engine was going to be branded as Cadillac or as General Motors, but there you go. Yeah, so I don't think that's an offer that Andretti would be interested in, unless it was a short-term Renault engine offer. But we shall wait and see. Who knows? Maybe Benetton will come back. Are Benetton still a company? Because Benetton were a clothing brand who became a Formula One team. Benetton Group. Let's have a look. Are you still a thing? I think they are. Well done to them. They've got 5,000 stores worldwide. Founded in 1965. It's owned by the Benetton family's holding company. There you go. So they're still a thing. Well done, everyone. I don't think they actually do any sport-related stuff at the minute. But, yeah. It says here the team was bought by Renault for $120 million in the year 2000 and was rebranded to Renault F1 in 2002. Just bring them back. I'm sure they'd love to come back and be at the back of the grid. Right, so we're going to speak about Fernando Alonso and his Aston contract, because he's re-signed his contract this week. He'll be sticking with Aston for a little bit longer. We'll talk about that in a minute. But before we talk about that, I want to speak about a rumour that came out on the same day that Alonso signed his contract. So this rumour talks about Alonso's possible decisions, and I'm going to read it like that anyway, but just know Fernando Alonso has signed a multi-year contract with Aston Martin, but we'll read the rumour anyway, because it says, Auto, Motor und Sport, one of the most respected media in the paddock, has spoken about the driver market. They claim that Red Bull is pressuring Fernando Alonso to make a decision with an ultimatum that will expire next week, and they say that Fernando, they say Fernando is interested if Verstappen is not there. If Red Bull does not continue as before, Verstappen does not want to continue. And that may happen, since Adrian Newey does not like the internal battle of the team and is receiving great offers from other teams. But right now, Max is not convinced about going to Mercedes, seeing the problems that they have. The Germans have approved his salary, which would be higher than that of Lewis Hamilton, but they have to assume that they have to assure him that his car will be able to win Grand Prix, and also for Carlos Sainz, he is receiving great pressure from Audi to sign as soon as possible. He is the number one choice for the German brand, but he is also on the list of Red Bull, Mercedes, and Aston Martin. So a lot to get into there. So firstly, let's look at Fernando Alonso, because we know where he is now. But apparently, yeah, there was talks between him and Red Bull Racing, and Red Bull gave him an ultimatum, which was this week. I don't know if that's true or not, but looking at how everything's lined up, maybe it is. Apparently, though, Fernando would not be interested in joining Red Bull if Verstappen was still there, which kind of makes sense to me, because I think Fernando wants to be a team leader, and he's not going to be a team leader in Red Bull if Verstappen's still there. As for Red Bull, it still seems like it's a massive mess, but realistically, I don't see Verstappen leaving. I don't see Adrian Newey leaving. I think they'll both be there into next year. Carlos Sainz is the driver with the biggest question mark around him, because I think, honestly, looking at this season so far, he is one of, if not the best / most consistent driver on the grid. And he definitely needs to be somewhere next year, and he definitely will be somewhere next year. It's just as for where. Apparently the 4 teams going after him the most are Audi, Red Bull, Mercedes, and Aston Martin. Now, if I was him, I wouldn't look at Audi or Mercedes. Just because with the whole Audi thing, you have to drive a stake F1 team kick Sauber car for a year, and then you'll have Audi coming in, and then who knows, like Audi, they will be successful eventually, but we don't know when that eventually will arrive. Who knows how many years it's going to take for Audi to be in a position where they're challenging for wins, never mind for world championships. So I think that Audi thing is a more long-term project, and I don't think that should be of the interest of Carlos Sainz, who should be winning right now, as he already is. Mercedes, I wouldn't sign with them, just because I know that their history of how great they've been, but if you look at them the last few years, they've just been going backwards and saying the same excuses over and over and over again, and just not learning anything, and it just doesn't seem like a great place to be right now. And I know the new when the new engines come in, they will all be more engine-based yet again, and Mercedes are very good at being engine-based, but I still just don't see it with Mercedes. For me, for Sainz, it's Red Bull or Aston, and if you can get in a Red Bull, you sign for Red Bull. But I think a team of Alonso and Sainz and an Aston Martin would be fantastic. That's something I would really, really like to see. So I would say get him in the Aston. Get Sainz, get Stroll in the WEC. Get Carlos Sainz back in that Aston Martin. I think that'd be really cool. And speaking of Aston Martin, let's finally talk about Fernando Alonso, because he signed a new multi-year deal with Aston. And like with many drivers at the minute, the announcement was made and it wasn't said when his contract actually ends, because I think it's another one of those kind of 2+1 or whatever type of contracts. So the contract says that he will stay with the team until at least 2026. So I think his contract will end in 2026, and then this is just me speculating here, but I think it's one of those types of contracts where it's up to him. He'll end the 2026 year, and he can then decide. If he wants to stay, he'll stay. If he wants to go, he'll go. Apparently, Fernando Alonso has spoken with Honda a few months ago to discuss 2026, and things are looking good, and he's feeling happy about the engine for 2026. The contract also leaves open the chance of Fernando Alonso to race at Le Mans with the Aston Martin Valkyrie in the future. And at the end of the 2026 season, Fernando Alonso will decide whether to continue driving, or he will be given a managerial position within Aston Martin, which is comparable to the role that Niki Lauda played at Mercedes in the early 2010s. So, yeah, to me, what it sounds like here is Fernando Alonso has been given a contract that says, we will pay you all the money in the world to stay at this team forever doing whatever you want. And Fernando Alonso has gone, yeah, that's a good deal. Yeah, I'll take that, actually. Thank you very much. And yeah, that's just what it seems like he's done. I mean, just looking at the face of it here, he gets to do Le Mans, he gets to choose when he retires, he's got a management job when he leaves, and that will also play into his young driver program that he's got himself. He's a driver manager, so that will probably go hand in hand with that as well. Yeah, I mean, Fernando Alonso's just been given everything he ever wanted by Aston Martin, and he's probably getting paid a hell of a lot of money for it too. So, good on him, to be fair. I see why he signed the contract. And I think it's going to be around for a long time, because now the future of Fernando Alonso is just in the hands of Fernando Alonso. He gets to call it quits whenever he wants. So as long as Aston can continue to provide him with a car that he's happy with, I don't see Fernando Alonso leaving Formula 1 for a very long time. And finally, let's talk about 2025. And the 2025 calendar, which has been released, it will also feature 24 races, just like this year has. If you watch it on the YouTube, here it is on the screen now. The biggest change is that Australia is now the opening race of the year, once again, which I think we kind of already knew. I think that was a rumour for a while. So Bahrain now is the fourth race of the year, which has been the first race of the year for the last few years. Just looking at it off the top here, it does look like it's more bunched together in terms of countries that are close together. We have Australia, China, Japan, Bahrain, Saudi. Then that Miami one's a bit of a one, which is just there. But then, the European section of Italy, Monaco, Spain, Canada, Austria, Silverstone, Belgium, Hungary, Netherlands, and then back to Italy again, and also Azerbaijan. And then Azerbaijan and Singapore, they're not too far apart, are they? Then we go to the Americas of USA, Mexico, Brazil, USA again, Qatar and Abu Dhabi a bit different. But yeah, it's not too bad. They've had much worse ones I can think of. The Saturday race only applies to Las Vegas this year because Bahrain and Saudi are pushed back further in the years to avoid Ramadan, so there won't be any Saturday races there. In terms of that, I can't see anything massively different, if I'm honest with you. No, it looks all about the same, really. I mean, we still have that summer break between Hungary and Spa. The 3-week break there. But yeah, it's a decent thing. There's no massive emissions from this year that have now gone. No new races that I can see. I mean, there's still loads of races that people wish would be on here, like a German race or whatever, which aren't here, and hopefully will come back at some point. I'd love to see the return of a Hockenheim or something like that, but yeah, there's been no rumours of that, so there was no big shock that that's not here. So yeah, overall, pretty happy with that calendar. Let me know what you think. I'm sure you already have. So leave a comment with what you think on all the news here this week. We'll be back next week for all things Chinese Grand Prix. And it's a sprint race weekend as well. Don't forget that. So we'll have the preview on the Thursday. And then there's a new sprint schedule, which I'm not entirely sure of on the top of my head. There'll be some kind of qualifying session on Friday, so I'll be here for that. I think the sprint is still Saturday. Look, whatever happens, there'll be reaction videos here on the channel, so make sure you come back for that. And of course, I'll have driver ratings on the Monday evening, and then we'll have another week off. There'll be more videos here. Look, there's always videos here. That's why you should subscribe, because there's just so much stuff. I mean, this week, I just sat down and I just wrote down all the video ideas I could possibly have. You know what? I think I'm going to be here until I die, which, could be relatively soon, could be a long way away. That's just a fact of life. There you go. That's the big takeaway from the news this week. We're all going to die. But maybe, just maybe, not yet. Until next time, have a good one. Goodbye.